Dodgers reliever Joe Kelly suspended 8 games for his role in the bench clearing incident in Houston on Tuesday night. Kelly is appealing the suspension. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts also handed a 1-game suspension, which he served yesterday. Injured Mets starter Marcus Stroman replied to a tweet about this, speaking, I think, for a lot of people around the sport, when he said, "Makes zero sense, Ken." The Ken he's talking about is Ken Rosenthal. He said he wasn't even thrown out of the game. MLB siding with protecting a team that openly and knowingly cheated their way to a World Series. He doesn't deserve to be suspended at all. Hoping he wins his appeal. Looking forward to seeing you back out there, JK. Holy smoke. I think everyone was extremely surprised when this happened yesterday. Here's Buster Olney and Jessica Mendoza. And Buster, I'll start with you. What do we know about what went into baseball's thinking in suspending Joe Kelly 8 games?
Yeah, and Greeny, this was an enormous suspension within the context of a 60-game season. It's the equivalent of a 21-game suspension in a 162-game season. Relievers in these type of instances typically get 2 to 5 games. And last night, the Dodgers were absolutely out of their minds, angry about this. They thought it was unfair because Kelly didn't actually hit either Alex Bregman or Carlos Correa. They were upset with the fact that Dave Roberts got a game and Dusty Baker didn't, despite the fact that Baker was yelling at Kelly during the course of that inning. But I think from Major League Baseball's perspective, if we look back at all the sign-stealing stuff dating back 2017, the biggest mistake that Rob Manfred made back during the Apple Watch situation, Yankees-Red Sox, he didn't come down with the hammer of discipline that altered behavior. This was designed to alter behavior. They're sending the message, look, we're not going to stand by as everybody takes shots at the Astros.
Yeah, fascinating. I have so many questions here. Jessica, let me just quickly come to you, though, as big picture as I can. What was your reaction to the suspension?
I was blown away. And to Buster's point, I mean, Major League Baseball said they wanted to make a statement. They wanted to let teams know this is not going to be okay. Clearly they did. But when you look at what happened, you look at Joe Kelly and the fact of how wild he is, I think it was more of the expressions, things like that. You knew there was going to be a suspension. But 8 games. 8 games, Greeny. As Buster mentioned, 21 games is the equivalent of that. I mean, this is something that I feel like is way too strong, especially knowing, this is why people are so mad, that none of the Astros players who cheated were punished for this. But yet, you have a pitcher in Joe Kelly who really has now been the superhero for so many players that were frustrated with the Astros. And now he's getting suspended 8 games. Okay,
I have a bunch of questions for you here. Jessica, the first one I will preface by saying I understand this is a very difficult question to answer. But watching it and with your lifelong knowledge of the game, did you think, because you just mentioned that Joe Kelly has a tendency to be wild, did you think he was throwing at those guys?
I think there was intent for sure to at least make a statement. I don't know if he meant to go 96 at Alex Bregman's head, to be honest. What I did see that showed that there was intent beyond just his facial expressions that we saw Joe Kelly make were the 3 pickoffs to Bregman once he got onto first base. I know that doesn't seem to be as the clear, but he threw down there, and there was no chance of him stealing. He was like 8 feet off the bag, Greeny, and he threw down right at his ribs 3 consecutive times. Then you knew there was something. There was something behind all of this. I do believe Joe Kelly is wild. I believe that he would not intend to throw that hard at Bregman's head. But when it came down to Correa, when it came down to others, I feel like there was an intent to make a statement.
Yeah, 2 thoughts. First, I've been in TV for 30 years. I've never in my life have we put up a picture of a guy just sticking his tongue out at an entire team before. So that it's quite a remarkable moment that we have in the history of this or any sport. The second thought I have, Buster, is I agree. Again, I can't get inside Kelly's head, but I thought he was throwing at him. And that is an extraordinarily dangerous act. I'm just trying to take the other side of this for the purpose of someone taking the other side. That it is an extraordinarily dangerous act, whether someone is a cheater or not, whether they cheated into winning a World Series or not. The punishment for that should not be the ramifications of a 96-mile-an-hour fastball hitting you in the head, which could have happened in this situation, Buster. So I'm trying to play the other side of this thing, and from that perspective, I think I see it.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, that folks with other teams were angry during the winter when Rob came out and basically said he wasn't going to allow teams to take shots at the Astros. Folks with other teams saying, hey, you know what? They're big boys. They can take the ramifications of what they did. But you're right, from Rob's perspective, and I think his feeling is we do not want to have incidents where constantly during the course of the year, we've got Astros players lying in heaps, and this is just allowed. I mean, the other day, the umpires didn't even warn Joe Kelly when he was on the mound after that first pitch behind Alex Bregman's head. So it was extraordinary for Major League Baseball to step in and essentially overrule the umpires on the field.
Yeah, and so I guess, Jessica, what I would ask you is, understanding, I want to make sure everyone understands how we got where we are. Major League Baseball had to get to the bottom of the Astros-Stein ceiling thing. In order to do that, they gave everyone immunity. Because no baseball player is going to come forward and say, oh, yes, I was banging trash cans, and these were exactly why I was doing it, unless they're told they're not going to get suspended for it. That is, for those who didn't follow the story, essentially the reason why there have been no ramifications for the Astros. And that, whether it was the right or wrong thing to do, Jessica, I want to make sure I'm getting all this right for the audience, is the crux of the frustration that the people around the sport have. That these guys cheated. They didn't really suffer any consequences or punishment for it. And here's Joe Kelly doing what baseball players have been doing for 150 years, which is making you pay by policing the game yourself, and he's getting suspended for what amounts to 20 games of a regular season.
Yeah, I mean, this has been unheard of in general in 2020, everything that we've seen. And this is, I mean, it just absolutely floored me, as I mentioned. But I mean, you got to think of what Joe Kelly is representing. And you're seeing it with the Marcus Stroman tweet. You're seeing it with the players like Cody Bellinger, who demanded that they should have the ring instead of the Houston Astros. So this isn't just a matter of the fact that the Astros cheated. It's the fact that Jose Altuve won the MVP that year over Aaron Judge. It's the fact that they won the World Series over this Dodgers team that is extremely frustrated. And that came out. Joe Kelly wasn't even on the team. But as a teammate, you can tell everything that they're feeling. And it's not just the Dodgers. It's pretty much every player. And we heard from them, Greeny, prior to the season. We've forgotten so much of that anger because of everything that's happened since then. But it is clearly there. And Joe Kelly showed that.